For years, the car industry looked completely decided. Tesla was leading the electric revolution. BYD was expanding faster than almost anyone expected. Every major company was rushing toward an all-electric future. And if you listened to the headlines long enough, it almost felt like gasoline cars were already dead. But while the world was busy watching that race, Toyota stayed strangely quiet. No dramatic promises, no futuristic launch events, no loud statements about changing the world. And then suddenly, almost without warning, Toyota revealed the new Corolla. And something unexpected happened. People started paying attention in a very different way. At first, it didn't make sense. Why would one of the biggest automakers in the world focus on a hybrid sedan while everyone else was chasing fully electric vehicles? Critics immediately called Toyota too slow. Some even said the company had already missed the future. But Toyota didn't react. It just kept moving carefully, almost as if it was waiting for something the rest of the industry hadn't noticed yet. And the strange part is, that moment may have finally arrived, because underneath all the excitement around EVs, ordinary drivers were quietly dealing with a completely different reality. Charging stations still weren't available everywhere. Battery replacement costs scared people more than companies liked to admit. Long-distance travel required planning. Apartment owners struggled with charging access. And in many countries, stable electricity itself was still a problem. The future sounded exciting on paper, but for millions of people, daily life still felt complicated. Toyota saw that hesitation long before everyone started talking about it publicly. That's why the new Corolla matters far more than most people realize. On the surface, it looks like a normal sedan. Nothing outrageous, nothing designed to shock people. But underneath, Toyota built something that directly targets the biggest weakness in the electric car transition. Uncertainty. The Corolla Hybrid doesn't ask drivers to completely change their lifestyle. There's no anxiety about searching for charging stations during a long trip. No fear of suddenly losing range in traffic. No pressure to install expensive charging equipment at home. You simply fill the tank, drive normally, and let the car handle the complicated part itself. Quietly, automatically, almost invisibly. And that's exactly why this story became uncomfortable for the rest of the industry. Because while other companies were selling the future, Toyota was selling relief. The company understood something extremely important about human behavior. Most people don't wake up excited to experiment with technology. They want reliability. They want low running costs. They want something that works every morning without creating stress. That's why Toyota's reputation became so powerful over decades. People trusted the brand because its cars survived daily life without drama. Now Toyota was applying that same philosophy to the future itself. And suddenly, the Corolla stopped being just another sedan. It became a challenge to the entire direction of the market. What made the situation even more surprising was Toyota's position globally. This wasn't a small company making desperate moves to survive. Toyota sells millions more vehicles than Tesla every single year. Its cars dominate cities, villages, highways, deserts, cold climates, and crowded urban streets across almost every continent. While Tesla focused heavily on advanced electric infrastructure, Toyota focused on scale, reliability, and markets where perfect EV conditions still didn't exist. That difference in strategy looked boring at first, until people started questioning whether the world was actually ready for a full electric transition as quickly as everyone assumed. And this is where the story starts to get interesting, because Toyota didn't suddenly invent hybrid technology overnight. In reality, the company had been developing hybrids for decades. Long before many competitors even took EVs seriously, Toyota was already experimenting with the balance between electric motors and traditional engines. But back then, hybrids looked temporary, like an in-between solution nobody would care about once pure. EVs became mainstream. Toyota never saw it that way. The company believed the transition would happen slowly, unevenly, and differently across the world. Some countries would adopt EVs quickly. Others would struggle for years. Infrastructure would expand in some regions while remaining weak in others. Fuel prices, government policies, electricity reliability, and customer behavior would all evolve at different speeds. So instead of betting everything on one future, Toyota built flexibility, and the new Corolla became the perfect symbol of that strategy. In city traffic, The electric motor quietly handles much of the driving. The experience feels smooth, calm, almost silent. Fuel consumption drops. Daily commuting becomes cheaper. But when drivers need highway power or long-distance confidence, the petrol engine takes over naturally. No complicated decisions, no switching modes every few minutes. The system manages itself. That simplicity became the real weapon, because many people secretly realized they didn't actually want a car that forced them to think differently every time they traveled. They just wanted peace of mind. And once drivers started comparing that feeling against the stress some EV owners experienced, the conversation around hybrids changed very quickly. For years, hybrid cars were treated like a compromise. Suddenly, they started looking intelligent. Then something even more important happened. Customers who were once excited to immediately buy EVs began slowing down and asking harder questions. What happens to batteries after several years? How much will replacement cost? What about resale value? What happens during road trips in areas with weak charging networks? And perhaps the biggest question of all, what if the transition takes much longer than expected? Those questions created space for Toyota, not because Corolla was more futuristic, but because it felt safer, and safety is incredibly powerful when industries go through massive change. Tesla still dominates attention. BYD continues, expanding aggressively. Electric vehicles are absolutely growing worldwide. But Toyota found a completely different battlefield. Instead of competing for the most futuristic image, the company focused on becoming the easiest choice for ordinary life. That may sound less exciting, but it may also be much smarter, because revolutions often look different once they leave major cities and enter the real world. A family driver sitting in traffic every morning doesn't always care about owning the most advanced technology on Earth. They care about affordability, reliability, maintenance costs, long-term comfort. They want something that works during school runs, office commutes, grocery trips, and annual family vacations without adding anxiety to their lives. And the Corolla quietly delivers exactly that, which creates a dangerous situation for competitors, built entirely around one vision of the future. Because Toyota's message isn't reject EVs, it's something much more subtle. The company is essentially saying, maybe the smartest future is the one people can actually live with right now. And once that idea enters the market, everything changes. Suddenly, governments have to think differently. Infrastructure planners have to think differently. Customers stop feeling pressured to immediately abandon gasoline forever. Even automakers begin reconsidering whether an EV strategy leaves too many people behind too quickly. That's why the new Corolla matters. Beyond sales numbers, it exposed something uncomfortable. The future may not arrive all at once. It may happen in stages, slowly, unevenly, country by country, driver by driver. And if Toyota's right about that, then the biggest car company in the world may not have fallen. Behind it all, it may simply have understood human behavior better than everyone else. What makes this even more fascinating is that Toyota never tried to present the Corolla like a revolutionary machine. There are no dramatic doors opening upward, no dashboard that looks like a spaceship, no promise that this car will change humanity. In fact, the Corolla almost feels intentionally normal, and that may be its biggest advantage, because while other companies compete for attention, Toyota competes for trust. That difference sounds small until you look at how people actually buy cars. Most drivers are not YouTube reviewers testing acceleration times on empty roads. They are parents calculating monthly expenses, workers driving through traffic every day, families planning long-distance trips during holidays. For them, a car is not a statement. It's stability. Toyota understood that emotional reality better than almost anyone. And once fuel prices started rising globally, the Corolla suddenly became even harder to ignore. People began doing simple math. Fully electric cars still carried high upfront costs in many regions. Charging infrastructure remained inconsistent. Insurance costs in some markets increased. Meanwhile, the Corolla hybrid quietly reduced fuel usage without forcing owners into an entirely new system. The car started looking less like a compromise and more like a financial survival strategy. That shift in perception changed everything, because the moment customers stop chasing hype and start chasing practicality, the market becomes much harder for futuristic branding alone to control, and Toyota knew exactly how to position itself there. The company didn't need to convince people to believe in a completely new future. It only needed to remove enough fear to make change feel comfortable. That's a very different psychological approach. Instead of pushing consumers forward aggressively,